little bit early on, then you would have heard that she was a Ryla member. She is a Rylarian. And her Riley name was Quads. So if that rings a bell, we're welcoming her to speak with us today. She is the owner of the elder agency Farmers Insurance. So she grew up in East Texas, like a lot of us on here, graduated from Texas Tech with a degree in finance and a concentration in real estate. And she decided it was time to open up her own agency a few years after school. So I won't share anything else. I'll let Haley do the rest.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to try and share my screen. So bear with me while I figure this out because I'm used to Zoom. So that's why.
Just warning, when you share your screen, you probably won't be able to see us because we've gotten that feedback from other speakers.
Gotcha. That's totally fine. Can y'all see like a PowerPoint?
Yes, ma'am.
No? Okay, perfect. So this is definitely weird that I can't see y'all. This is something to get used to. But alrighty, so just a little bit about me. I know Sarah kind of already said it, but I was born in West Texas in Lubbock, but raised in East Texas, and that's where I call home. I graduated from Kilgore High School, and that is where I was introduced to Ryla. So my older sister was also a Rylarian. Her name was Agua. I think she was water is what it was because she drank a lot of water. So Shelby Elder. So y'all might also know her as well. And I got to watch her and how much she loved to be a part of Ryla. So I obviously wanted to join being the little sister and get to experience that as well. And so it kind of helped. Ryla definitely just helped shape me into being a better leader, which has ultimately been a big part of my business ownership. So I give a lot of credit to Ryla. I give a lot of credit to the Rotary, and I'm definitely trying to give back to the Rotary when I can. So I'm very appreciative and very honored that y'all asked me to speak, and I am totally loving it. So I hope that this helps someone in some little way, and if it's totally boring, I completely apologize. But I'll kind of go into how I got into it. So first off, I went to Texas Tech, and they have this big thing, and it's called the Career Fair, which every college has. And they have a row, it's called Insurance Row, and everybody avoids it like the plague. You walk any and every which way around it. And they have like the map on the phone, and I saw a little Edward Jones booth, and I was like, oh, okay, whatever. And I was walking, and I was waiting on my map to load the other half of its little zoomed in piece. And I turned around, and there was the farmer's rep just in my face. And she was like, hi, it's nice to meet you. And I was like, oh gosh, this is the wrong aisle. So I talked to her, obviously, and I have this weird obsession with, I love being interviewed. I hate doing interviews to people, but I love being interviewed. And so she offered me an interview, and I said, of course. And I, at that point, was intrigued as to know more. But my ultimate goal was to be a financial advisor, to invest people's personal assets, and, make them more money. And that's exactly what I wanted to do. I knew what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to own a Edward Jones office, and that was it. And I just thought, for the experience, why not go? So I went and ended up having like a 45-minute talk session. I wouldn't even really consider it an interview after the first 15 minutes, but more of just an info session on exactly what is Farmers and how this actually relates to what I want to do. And eventually I chose Farmers as my internship opportunity. And on day one, when I get there, they were like, hey, we've got this agent who's starting up, and I think it would be a great opportunity if you want to be an agent one day and not on the corporate side, to follow and watch and get to grow and study underneath her for a year and then start your own. And so I said, great, this is it. Over the course of that internship, I fell in love with insurance, surprisingly, and Farmers and the Farmers family. It truly is, even though it is a Fortune 500 company, it truly is like a small, close-knit family. And you get to know everybody really well. And everybody's there to support each other and help each other, and it's just an upstanding company. So I decided, okay, this is it. After college, I'm going to go and I'm going to finish working for her. And I did right at a year and decided to open my own agency. I was tired of it not being my name on the door and working for something that was ultimately pocketing another person. And I wanted to be able to take that step and really hone in on the skills that I was wanting to progress in. So I took lessons, which were exactly what to do and exactly what not to do in a business startup. And I applied that, and I dove in headfirst at 22 years old into business ownership. And I can thank my parents for that, because they said if they had one piece of advice for me, they said, do it while you're young, because you can fall and you can get back up. And we wish we would have taken more risks. So we'll have your back in case you fall. You can always rely on us to get back up. And so I did it, and it's been 2 years on August 1st that I have been an owner, and I have absolutely loved it, and absolutely, I'm sure, hated it at times too. But that's kind of a little bit of a background on how I got to here. So just kind of a little bit of my office in overview, but I have on the books right now 3 employees. I have a freelance marketer who's kind of more of an as needed. I have a customer service representative, and I have a sales producer or a licensed sales advisor, whatever you want to call it, as well as me. I am currently in the market of hiring 3 more people right now. So I'm looking before the end of the year to hire 3 more staff. I'm currently getting them in the final stages of their interviews and licensing and background checks and things like that. So I'm growing at a high rate of speed, but a little bit of my management style is I am a pretty laid back person. I don't like to be a micromanager. I know that that works with some people's business and it doesn't work with other people's business. And I just am not the type to micromanage. However, if I need to, I will. But I'm very goal oriented. So me as an individual, I'm extremely goal oriented, and I want my staff to be goal oriented as well, just because when a goal is given, which is a sales role, you're always going to be given a goal. It's just my job and want and desire to achieve that. And with that, I constantly evaluate my team. I want to know what makes them tick. And it ranges from month to month. Sometimes, during the holiday season, they want time off. Other times it's money. Maybe around March, it's money that they want. And then maybe around summer, it's a vacation that they want. And so I constantly try and figure out what it is that motivates them to work harder and to be a better employee. And so I'm constantly motivating and rewarding when deserved. One of the biggest takebacks from my previous boss was she was motivate, but she wouldn't reward. And it was very discouraging to us to see all the hard work poured into it and then the no recognition. And I think that's where you then start to get an undervalued employee. They don't like their job, now they're leaving, and then you're having to rehire. So I use that shortcoming in her office as a big part of my agency and changing that up to create a laid back management style where it's a very self-motivated. I'm not going to be on you if you're on your phone on Facebook, but your sales better produce it at the end of the month. Otherwise, we're going to have a little bit of an issue. So with all that, trials and lessons that I have learned, I've learned a lot. And within these 2 years, I don't have the know-hows answers to all of it, but I am constantly learning new things every day. There's usually a shocker where it's like, wow, I didn't think it could get any more than that, but here we are, and this is totally new. So these are just kind of 5 things that when I was typing this up, I mean, I could give y'all 3,500 things of trials that I've gone through and lessons that I've learned, but these are just 5 that really hit me. And my business mentor always said, be slow to hire, quick to fire. And I was so just trying to rush the process to get out of the previous agency and to get into my own agency that I made some hiring decisions that in retrospect I should have trusted my gut And with that comes, okay, now they're an employee, and then you're scared to fire them because you don't want the conflict and you don't want to let a person down. And with that being said, you end up tallying the numbers at the end of the day and you've lost 25 grand in payroll, or you've lost 25 grand in income plus 25 grand in payroll that you paid them out that they didn't pay you. So it was one of those big hurdles. In my first fire that I did, I was scared to death. And of course, he yelled at me in my office for 45 minutes and basically called me young and dumb. And I didn't know what I was doing. But, it was a learning lesson, and it definitely helped to coach me up that with anyone with business ownership, or not even business ownership, but in a management position, I think it's one of those things that has impacted me greatly in how I hire. And I don't care if it takes a month to process that person out. I'm not going to hire them within a week and then regret it and waste payroll on it. I'm going to take a month to really know that I want to hire them and that they're going to be a great fit for me and my agency. And then we're going to go and we're going to work from there. So takeaway 2 of that with staff is that they're never going to work as hard as you, and that is okay. And I learned pretty quickly that you cannot expect your staff to want it as much as you or more than you. Nobody's going to want something more than you do. And if you want it and that's your ultimate goal, then it needs to be your ultimate goal, but you can't force it upon somebody else. And I mean, I even take that in my marriage. My priorities aren't always going to be the same as Abe's priorities, and not pushing my priorities onto him and letting his priorities remain his priorities, even though they might not be my priority, and balancing that with staff. Because they're going to show up at 8 a.m. They're going to leave at 5 a.m. and that's what they're paid to do. But you might be showing up at 6 a.m. and leaving at 8 p.m. And that's on you. But that's because you want it. That's because it's your name on the door at the end of the day. And it's totally okay. And sometimes sacrificing your all, even when it's underappreciated by those around you. I think I never really understood this until I switched over to the ownership side, and it has been such an eye-opener. Having staff, having employees, they are always going to be wanters, they're always going to be takers. And even if they're doing a job and they do deserve a raise, they're still going to be asking for a raise annually, regardless of if they did a good job or not. You bonus them out, they don't think what impact that has on you. So there have been months where they've asked for a raise, and on the back end, they don't even know that I haven't paid myself in 3 months. And they don't see that I was working at 10:45 last night. And, they don't see the sacrifice that Abe makes as a husband to let me work all those hours during a week, or be up there on a Saturday. And in order to save costs, he's changing light bulbs and he's fixing plumbing and doing all that to make this all work and to make it all flow. So just being okay with knowing that your sacrifices are going to go unnoticed, and having to deal with that and just let it roll off your back, which totally rolls into mental health. And mental health to me was probably my biggest hurdle to get over. And I think it's one of those that's totally pushed under the rug, and it's like, oh, well, that's just your own problem, kind of deal with it in your own time. And it's very hush hush. So I'm under a lot of stress, just as we all are, but it's probably a bit of an abnormal amount of stress for a 24-year-old, 23-year-old, whenever I'm going through all this. And I've always suffered from anxiety, even from when I was little. And it basically manifested itself to where when you work 80 hours a week and you don't take a break, and then you've got clients calling you at midnight, 2 a.m., because they think the world's going to end if they don't put the claim in at that moment, that you never mentally get a break. Your brain never stops. And then it starts running into your sleep. And then your brain's never shutting off in your sleep. And to the point where you end up being so stressed and so overworked that you forget to take the time for yourself, that your whole body starts to just basically break down on you. And it took me getting strep throat 6 times in 1 year, becoming on like a daily cold sore medication just to prevent having cold sores constantly on my lips, being on an anxiety medication to basically calm all of it down, to figure out, oh, hey, it's not worth it all the time. It's not worth it to put in 80 hours a week and sacrifice a portion of your relationship with every single person that you have, your friendships, to be this stuck in one thing. And so it was an eye-opener for me to have to say, wow, being that much in it has actually hindered my business. Whereas if I pull myself out and I do take breaks and I do reward myself with the good things, I reward myself with 4 hours off or a day off. And it's okay. It's okay to go on vacation. It's okay to have a Saturday off, has actually benefited me and made me more money. So that was one of the biggest trials that I had and struggle with, and probably honestly will struggle with just throughout my career, is me just diving too much into it and having to pull myself out of it and go, you know what, this isn't what life is all about. This isn't what you're wanting this job for. It's not to be a workaholic. It's to be able to balance the personal life and the family life. And then the last thing is staying in my bubble. This is a phrase that the district office uses a lot. They just say, stay in your bubble. And being that competitive personality, I always want to compare myself to people around me. And sometimes you can't compare yourself to an agent who's been there 14 years. And sometimes I want to compare myself to that. And I'm like, why am I not there yet? But then I have to take a step back and go, you're just starting out. This doesn't happen overnight. And I always have this, and I should have put it up here, but it was, I guess, a meme is what you'd call it, but it's not funny. But it's a picture of Amazon when he's like in this basically storage closet of a room, and his Amazon logo is taped up on a piece of paper and like handwritten with just one of those big fat Sharpie markers that says Amazon. And it says, don't compare your day 0 to someone else's day, or year 32. And so it's just one of those reminders that I constantly have to just stay in my bubble, put my blinders on, and just focus on what's me, what I can control, and those goals that I can accomplish and I can attain myself, and forgetting about all the stuff that can bring me down or the pressure of the outside world. And that's ultimately what's going to make me a better boss, a better wife, a better agency owner, a better everything. And so those are kind of the trials that I have looked at for the last 2 years and can say that have molded me and shaped me into hopefully being a better boss and a better owner. So I figured that would probably be more interesting. I don't think that insurance would be that interesting to tell you all about. Most people find it extremely boring, but I wouldn't be an agent if I wasn't a little salesy. So for all of those who don't know, I think you pretty much know Farmers Insurance. But an overview of what they offer is auto, home, your specialties, just like boat, RV, motorcycle, all commercial lines, so commercial auto, business owner policies, things of that nature, and then, of course, life insurance. So we basically dub ourselves everything but health insurance. Health insurance is something that I don't touch, we don't write, I refer out just because it's a totally different ball game. But that is pretty much it. We are farmers. Bum, ba-dum, bum, 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 bum. So that is all I have. We are, I'm totally open for questions. I'll definitely hang around so that way y'all can ask your asks, and hopefully that was a little bit entertaining. But if you have any questions, I am an open book.
So you dropped a chat there. Do you want to ask? Haley, can you see?
Oh, okay, here we go. Okay, so bonuses for employees, it totally ranges. So we normally set annual goals, and I set an annual goal usually for a trip that they can hit a certain level and go on a trip by themselves. And then if they hit an extra level, they can, and I'll basically pay for their spouse to go. So that's the annual one, which usually would be like a trip to Mexico. It's going to basically value around $1,000 per person for me. And that's based upon their ultimate production throughout the year, which is usually a pretty lofty goal. And then we break it down to weekly bonuses. So right now, their weekly bonus is if they submit $20,000 this week by Friday in premium. One of them's kid is going off to college, and so they're really pushing for time off. So they have the following Friday off if they do $20,000 in premium this week. So it was very driven by time off. However, last month they won a $150 bonus. And then they also have a promo running for the end of this week, end of this month, that every life insurance policy that they app, they get a $20 bonus. So if they app 5, they get $100. It's just kind of, totally across the board. Sometimes it could be literally a pop-up like, hey, whoever gets the most quotes gets a $25 gift card to their favorite restaurant. It's just kind of what we're feeling, or what I'm feeling in that moment. But we always do a monthly bonus, which is usually cash driven, weekly bonuses, which would be time off, and then daily bonuses are just like little gift cards here and there.
Very cool. I love that you vary that based on what people are wanting, what the employees are asking for, what they're needing. That says a lot about you as a boss and how you conduct your business very personally. So that's very cool. It's something that we can take back, all of us can take back into our daily lives, no matter what role we have. Does anyone else have questions they want to ask? Was that one we had in chat?
Ooh, I have one. Well, kind of a question. I really enjoyed what you said about in the beginning about hiring slow and firing quickly. Both my parents and my brother currently owns his own business, and my parents owned their own business when I was growing up. And it seemed like they always had amazing relationships with their top managers. They found some really dependable people, but there was always a falling out, and it was always so devastating, and it was always over something that seemed so small. Do you have any other advice as far as relationships with your employees and your staff, your managers, that would be good for other business owners?
You're muted, Haley.
Sorry. So I think that, oh gosh, there's a lot. I would say it's hard not to get, especially when you're working 9 hours a day together, it's hard to not get close and create those friendships and those close-knit relationships. But you have to distance yourself, because at the end of the day, it's your business and it's your paycheck, your money. And I'm kind of in a bit of a situation right now with one of my employees who is a friend of mine. We used to be coworkers at the old agency office, and she is a little bit taking advantage of the time off system, and it's more of a I tell you, not ask you sort of relationship. And when you break down the numbers, I'm losing more money. And if it was any other person, I would have let them go a while ago. So I'm in one of those situations right now, and I wouldn't do it again, is basically what I've learned from it. And so I would just say to keep a separation. One of the things I also learned is I will never take a trip with my employees. A vacation with your employees can turn into a fiasco. It can cross a lot of lines. And so send your employees on a vacation, you go on a private vacation, but don't go on the same vacation together. So I would just, the biggest thing would be to draw that line. And it's going to be hard, and you're going to feel bad, and you are going to have at least some sort of connection. But at the ultimate end of the day, I remind myself, you're being fired for some reason, and I didn't do that. You did that. You're the one who's forcing yourself to quit. It's not anything that I did. It's what you did. So I'm just remembering they had every opportunity. They were coached correctly. I did the process correctly, and they chose not to do that. And so at the end of the day, I have to feed my family. I can't keep feeding yours if you're not going to want the job and do the job correctly.
We have another question.
How do I get my clients? Okay, so there's a total variety of ways, but normally we have obviously our natural market. So Facebook friends, family friends, we get hit up all the time on that. And then I also I buy internet leads. So people will want to purchase via the internet, and so we buy them at a price and contact them, follow up with them, and see if we can earn their business there. And then lastly, the main market would be referrals. So referrals from mortgage lenders and realtors who are in the housing market. When people purchase homes, that's their biggest time to be shopping for their insurance rates. And so that's the biggest probably kicker, other than social media, that we get all of our business from. And then you'll have the one-off flyers that call in because they drove by and saw you were close to their house, and so they want to switch over. But the three main categories would be social media, natural market, and then lender referrals.
Awesome. I think I echo a little when you're off mute, Haley, so I keep muting you. But any other questions? Yeah, Karen. Karen just mentioned in the chat, recently left a higher paying job for one where she received positive feedback. So yeah, it definitely means a lot. I didn't leave the company, but switched roles about 1.5 years ago for the same reason. I was just, you know, my direct manager was great, but everyone above him was difficult to work under. So I think that's awesome that you were able to give that feedback, positive and negative, and at such an early stage in your career, be able to run a business like this. Alexander asked, love to hear more about your social media marketing. So if you want to talk on that a bit.
Yes, and I will try to make that as short as possible. I actually do have a legit presentation on that one. But basically, I can't really say that I know the whole ins and outs of what to do, but I can say that I'm a 25-year-old and I've grown up in the technology age. And so basically I do targeted Facebook ads. So I use the ad center in Facebook. I pay to be in people's faces, and with the ad center you can basically pick where they're located, if they have a college degree, if they're married, what their likes are. You can really hone in on a certain population and demographic and target the heck out of them. And so that's why you might be talking about Tide, and then all of a sudden Tide pops up on your Facebook or Instagram the next time you're on it. They use it, we're not oblivious to it. They listen, they do all of that, and they use it to make their money. And people freak out, and like my parents will freak out, and they'll say like, oh, TikTok's from China. I'm like, well, you've got Facebook on your phone. I pay for your information. So it's definitely nothing new. It's definitely one of the biggest money makers, and it's just re-throwing our face out every single time to the audience. So even if they're not biting and saying they want a direct quote, they're calling in, and they don't and they're not making that connection that why they're calling in was because they saw us on a Facebook ad. They're just thinking that they Googled our name. So I'm big on Facebook ads, and then just posting regularly. I post 3 to 5 times a week. I try and make the posts fun. I don't want them always to be about insurance. You'll see us literally doing TikTok dances, and it has nothing to do with insurance whatsoever. But if people enjoy it, it's funny. They laugh at it. They love to see giveaways. They love to see just us as an agency. One of my biggest hits is our postman. I film our postman coming into the office and put it on our story. And I'm not kidding you. He was at Rudy's a couple months back, and the manager was like, "Hey, you're that postman guy for that insurance agency, right?" And he was like, I mean, yeah, I guess so. And so it's just the little things that make people feel more relatable to us. And we don't want to be like this stuffy insurance office that nobody wants to talk to or that you're scared to talk to. It's one of those casual places where people can come in and they can feel like they can be themselves. And so that's pretty much what I do summed up. Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. I kind of share it to all, and then just keep it casual.
Can you drop your social media in the chat for us so we can follow if we want?
Yes. Sure thing. That might take a second, but I can definitely do it. I might.
Well, while Haley is dropping her social media in there, yes, Elizabeth, that is my job. I do marketing. Molly does marketing as well. So if anyone really wants to know how all that targeting and tracking and listening in all works, you got a couple experts of that on the call.
Do not use me as an expert. Definitely use them. Mine is like just YouTube driven, so it's not a degree whatsoever.
I will tell you though, following Haley on social media, they definitely post some great things, some fun videos and giveaways and stuff. So want to see how a successful small business runs their social media and does a great job at it, definitely go follow Haley's social media. Haley, Jake asked in a chat, what do you feel like sets your agency apart from the rest?
Great question. I definitely think it is the level of customer service that we give. So the biggest complaint that we get from people is that my rates went up. We don't know why. I haven't talked to my agent in years. Their favorite phrase to use is that their agent lives on the golf course and that they never get to talk to them. And so people know us in our office. They know that they're going to get me. They know that they're going to get Esmeralda. They know they're going to get Kim. And then if I have any other people, I make sure to introduce. So I always send a welcome email out to my clients. We all send a welcome email out to our clients, and we basically introduce each and every person. So if you're not going to get me on the phone, you know that I have my staff and you know their names and they can feel connected with them. So we always try and keep it just fun and light, and everyone's involved, and the client always feels like they're on a team together versus they're at war with farmers. It's more like, oh, the elder agency is the bridge to help me if I've got a problem. I have a claim. My billing was different this month than it has been previous months. And so we always try and make sure that we have the customer service there. And even if that takes more time selling a policy, we're going to make sure that we have explained coverages to where people go, oh, okay, I finally understand, because they've had insurance for 25 years and they can't tell you what the coverages mean. So we make sure we spend time with each and every client, that they feel like they're literally a part of the Farmers family.
Awesome. Any other questions? I don't see anything else jumping in the chat. Anyone have other questions for Haley? Awesome. Well, I also want to, before we wrap up, say hello to Donna Sharp and Karen Maines, who jumped on. Karen, as I think most of you, all except for maybe our guests, know, Karen was previously the president. She is the immediate past president of Longview Gregton. She helped us get our club started, so it's always nice to see you join us, Iron Maiden. And then Donna Sharp is current president of Longview Gregton. And board members, you're going to be hearing from her a bit more in the future. We're going to work on partnering more and more with Longview Gregton moving forward. So hopefully we see Karen and Donna and other Longview Gregton members jumping in to say hi every now and then. So welcome, ladies. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Excited to be here. Coming in, I started and took the reins from Karen on July 1, and she has been such an instrumental part of your club and starting the club and all of that. My hat's off to her and to you guys for doing what you do. And I'm looking forward to us collaborating, our boards working together and learning from each other. I think it's going to be great. I look forward to it.
Awesome. Do we have any other guests jump on? I know we were expecting, Wes, you had one other you were thinking may jump on. Was he able to join?
I don't think he was able to get on.
Okay. Well then, do we have any other questions, comments, concerns, or announcements from board members or members at large?
Hey, Sarah. I'd like to just tell everyone about our speaker for next week, Sergeant Alexander Rosado. I just spoke with him today, and I'm actually really excited for this. He is going to be speaking to us about de-escalation tactics in the police force. So he's very knowledgeable and trained in that area. So I encouraged him to engage us in some discussion on that as well. So if you have questions about it, come with questions.
Please come armed with really hard questions. Alex is a very good friend of mine, and I think it'll be fun to quiz him. He is very talented at his job and very well trained in that area. So I think it's going to be really great next week. Anything else before we do our four-way test? Okay. I'm going to be nice and try and share my screen so we can all see it. And then we are all going to try our best to say it in unison, which we all know is very difficult. Let's see. Of course, it has to be the smallest picture I could find.
So tiny.
There we go. Okay. So, the four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. Is it the truth? Number 2, is it fair?
Concern.
Number 3.
Will it build goodwill and better friendships?
And number 4.
Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Awesome. Thank you all. Thank you to our guest speaker, Haley, and all of our guests who were able to join us today. Everyone is welcome every week, so please invite friends, family, any guests that you would like. If you have people in your life who would make great guest speakers, send those over to Sarah Tucker, and enjoy the rest of your evening. Thanks, guys.
All righty. Adios.
Bye.
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 Thanks, Haley.